Welcome to Sleepy Classic Tales. Tonight, we listen to our own calm and gently narrated short version of The Island of Dr. Moreau, written by H.G. Wells and first published in 1896. Edward Prendick, a young man with a scientific background, is the sole survivor of a devastating shipwreck. For 3 days, he drifts across the endless ocean in a small lifeboat. The sun burns relentlessly. His water supply runs out, and slowly he loses any clear sense of time and direction. Just as his strength begins to fail completely, a ship appears on the horizon. Prendick is pulled aboard, half-conscious and utterly exhausted. The vessel is old, dirty, and commanded by a rough, unfriendly crew. Yet one man immediately stands out from the others. His name is Montgomery. Montgomery tends to Prendick with calm professionalism and a composed, almost clinical focus. He appears educated and controlled, but also distant and closed off. Something about him does not fit with the rest of the crew. Prendick soon notices something else that unsettles him deeply. All over the ship are cages. Large ones, small ones, some holding dogs, others goats, and a few covered with heavy cloth. From these covered cages come muffled sounds, sounds that are animal-like, yet strangely hard to identify. Montgomery offers little explanation. He only says that he works on a remote island and is transporting the animals there. He refuses to provide further details. The days aboard the ship pass in an atmosphere of tension. The crew avoids Montgomery, and Montgomery avoids the crew. They watch each other with open mistrust. Only when Montgomery tends to the animals does he seem fully focused, almost gentle, yet always strictly scientific. One night, Prendick is awakened by screams. They are not human screams, not clearly animal either. They come from somewhere in between. They sound like a living being in pain, struggling to cry out, perhaps even to speak. Prendick tries to learn what is hidden beneath the covered cages, but Montgomery warns him sharply, in a voice far harder than before, to stay out of it. Prendick's days aboard the ship are filled with unease. The captain and crew treat him with suspicion from the beginning. To them, he is an outsider, a survivor without luggage, without purpose, a man who does not belong. The captain openly calls him ballast, someone who brings trouble and bad luck to the ship. He repeatedly orders Prendick to stay away from the crew. When Prendick accidentally witnesses a dispute among the sailors, the captain accuses him of stirring unrest. From that moment on, it becomes clear that the captain wants him gone as soon as possible. But in the middle of the ocean, there is nowhere to put him ashore. The tension continues to build until land finally appears on the horizon. When the ship reaches the island, a rugged strip of land rising from the sea, the atmosphere changes completely. Montgomery asks the captain to allow Prendick to be left on the island rather than cast back into the ocean. The captain hesitates. He wants Prendick off his ship, but he also fears Dr. Moreau, the man who rules this island. He knows Moreau's reputation and understands that the doctor is unpredictable and does not tolerate strangers. At first, the captain refuses, insisting that he will not put anyone ashore without permission. Yet he makes it clear that he does not want Prendick aboard any longer, and even threatens to force him into a boat if necessary. Montgomery is visibly torn. He wants to save Prendick, but Moreau clearly wants no visitor. After a brief, tense exchange between Montgomery and Moreau, the doctor reluctantly gives in. Prendick is allowed to land. Moreau's gaze, however, leaves no doubt. He does not want this man here. At first glance, the island appears peaceful, tropical, green, warm. Yet behind the palms, behind the dense vegetation, behind the houses and laboratory buildings, Prendick immediately senses something else. Unease, restlessness, the feeling of being watched. And before the sun sets, he hears it again, a deep, tortured howling sound coming from somewhere within the station, a sound no ordinary animal would ever make. Part 2. The Hidden Compound and the First Atrocities. Prendick steps onto the island alongside Montgomery. The ground is warm beneath his feet, the air heavy with moisture, and a sweet, unsettling smell lingers in the bushes. Everything looks peaceful, almost like a paradise. But the sounds drifting from deeper within the island do not fit this image. Something screams. Something responds. Some sounds resemble arguments between beings that seem half aware and half driven by instinct. Montgomery leads Prendick to a small house at the edge of the station complex. It is modest, but clean. Nearby stands a larger building without windows, secured by thick wooden doors and metal locks. Prendick cannot see what happens inside, but instinctively he knows it is not a place meant for visitors. Dr. Moreau soon emerges from this building. He is tall and gaunt, with a stern face and cold, focused eyes. He studies Prendick not as a person, but as a disruption, a risk, something that might endanger his work. Politely, yet firmly, he tells Prendick that he may stay under one condition. He must stay out of everything that happens inside the laboratory. Whenever Moreau speaks, the island seems to fall silent. Montgomery, usually warm and approachable, appears almost like a nervous student beside him. Prendick senses a complex dependency between the two men. Montgomery relies on Moreau, though for what reason he does not yet know. The next morning, Prendick is awakened once again by screams. This time, they are closer, clearer, more disturbing. He hears sobbing sounds that do not resemble an animal. There are fragments that sound almost like words. Montgomery stands outside and mutters quietly that it is better not to ask questions. But Prendick cannot ignore it. Later that day, while wandering across the island, Prendick encounters a figure that fills him with dread. A being walking upright yet hunched, with a face that is partly human and partly animal. Its arms are too long, its movements unnatural. It looks at him with eyes that seem almost guilty, then flees as if frightened. Soon afterward, Prendick sees another such creature, then another. Some appear almost human, others far more animal-like. All share the same expression, a mixture of awareness and suffering. Prendick begins to understand that something horrific is happening here. Dr. Moreau is not merely a biologist. He is someone who crosses boundaries that should never be crossed. As the sun sets, the screams from the laboratory return, louder and more intense, cutting through the walls and freezing Prendick's blood. Montgomery sits outside the house, smoking, looking deeply troubled. When Prendick finally asks him directly what Moreau is doing and what these beings are, Montgomery does not answer right away. He only looks down and repeats that Prendick was told not to ask. Yet in his voice, Prendick hears something unmistakable: guilt. As night falls and the island grows quiet, Prendick knows one thing with certainty. The truth hidden behind the locked doors will be far worse than anything he has imagined. Part 3. The Laws, the Beasts, and the Truth about Moreau's work. The next morning, Prendick decides to venture deeper into the island. Something draws him inward, a sense that the truth lies not in the buildings but among the trees. The air is heavy and oppressive, the vegetation thick. Again and again something rustles nearby, too large to be an ordinary animal. He feels watched by unseen eyes. Eventually, he reaches a clearing. Several of the strange beings sit there, forming a loose circle. Their posture suggests a ritual. Prendick remains hidden and listens. One of the creatures, shaped like a man but bearing the features of a wolf, recites what sounds like a list of laws. The others repeat them solemnly. They speak of not hunting, not running on all fours, not eating flesh, not harming humans, and of being men, not animals. The words sound like a desperate attempt to cling to an identity that is not natural to them. Their voices waver between human reasoning and animal instinct, as if they must constantly fight not to fall back. Prendick realizes with chilling clarity that these are not diseased humans or exotic animals. They are creatures created through experiment. Animals, surgically reshaped by Moreau with scientific obsession and precision, forced toward humanity. The full horror of this realization strikes him when Dr. Moreau suddenly appears behind him and calmly addresses him. Moreau seems almost pleased that Prendick has seen the truth. As he leads him back, he explains everything in a detached, academic tone. He speaks of the perfect transition, of overcoming instinct, of reshaping life into something higher. He sees no monsters, only research material. Pain to him is a side effect. Screams are merely reflexes. Morality has no place in his calculations. Prendick is horrified. He understands that Moreau does not merely cross boundaries, he no longer recognizes them. When fresh screams echo from the laboratory, Moreau ignores them as if they were the sound of running water. Montgomery later confesses his own past. He was once a medical student, lost his position due to alcoholism, and followed Moreau to this island because no one else would have him. He both admires and fears Moreau, knowing the work is both groundbreaking and monstrous. He is trapped in a role he can no longer escape. Prendick witnesses one of the creatures retreating before Moreau, repeating the law again and again in fear. He understands then that the beasts live in constant terror, fear of their own nature, fear of Moreau, fear of relapse. And he realizes something else. The island is a ticking bomb. No law, no matter how often repeated, can permanently suppress the true nature of a living being. Part 4. The Collapse of the Law and the Rise of Chaos. In the days that follow, Prendick lives between fascination and dread. He moves carefully across the island, aware that the fragile order is beginning to crack. It starts with small things. A creature briefly runs on all fours. Another greedily snatches forbidden meat. One struggles to speak and produces only animal sounds. Faces grow rougher. Language breaks down. Instinct takes over. Montgomery realizes it first. Moreau's operations are never stable, never permanent. Nature always pushes back. Then one evening, a scream erupts from the jungle, deeper and wilder than any before. Moreau and Montgomery rush into the darkness. Prendick follows from a distance. They find one of the creatures dead, torn apart. Worse than the sight itself is the realization that one of the beasts has violated the first law. Moreau reacts not with fear or grief, but with rage. To him, the murder means failure, a defect, a relapse. He pursues the offender into the forest. Moments later, a horrifying scream echoes. Then silence. Then another scream, this time Montgomery's. Prendick runs and finds the scene. The beast has attacked Moreau. The doctor is gravely wounded. Montgomery fires a shot. The creature falls. Moreau lies dying. With a voice as broken as his ideals, he admits that no matter how hard he tried to shape man from animal, it is always the animal that returns. Dr. Moreau dies shortly afterward. With his death, the fragile order collapses completely. Montgomery is devastated. Moreau was everything to him. He begins to drink heavily. Prendick understands what this means. There is no authority left, no law, no one to control the beasts, and the beasts sense it too. Part 5. The Last Struggle and the Return to the Human World. The night after Moreau's death is the most restless Prendick has ever known. The beasts whisper and howl, torn between instinct and reason. They are frightened, but also free. The next morning, Prendick finds Montgomery drunk and broken. He speaks of the creatures as children, of Moreau abandoning them, of his duty to help them now. His words are confused and dangerous. Then, the moment Prendick feared arrives. Montgomery opens the supply store, offers food and drink to the beasts, and loses control. They surge forward. Montgomery falls and disappears beneath claws and teeth. Prendick is alone. He barricades himself inside the house, searching desperately for weapons or tools. The beasts attempt to enter, but hesitate, still trapped between old fear and new freedom. Prendick seizes the opportunity. He assumes the role of master, speaks firmly, invokes the law, and claims Moreau appointed him. For a time, it works. The beasts retreat, not from belief, but from fear. Yet each day, their discipline fades. Their bodies change. Language vanishes. Civilization crumbles. Prendick knows he must escape. He studies tides, wind, and the island's layout. One evening, he spots a neglected boat. He waits for the darkest hour, slips past the creatures, and reaches the shore. The boat is damaged but seaworthy. He pushes off and rows away, leaving the island behind. Days later, a passing ship rescues him, but the world he returns to no longer feels the same. He sees something animal in human faces, something instinctive beneath social order. He understands how thin the line between civilization and nature truly is. That was our calm, short version of The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, a story about science without limits, power without compassion, and the dangerous belief that humanity stands above nature. Perhaps you wondered how this novel reflects the fears of its time, what Wells truly thought of scientific ambition, and whether Dr. Moreau is the monster of the story or merely a mirror of human arrogance. We explore these questions and many more in our companion book, Golden Pages, Volume 1. The link can be found in the description. Good night. And if you like, we will listen to each other again tomorrow.